Hi, this is an auxiliary exercise just meant to help you get set up with VS Code and get a little bit comfortable with it. So I've just opened up VS Code here, and what I'm going to do is click on this little link which opens up what's called an Explorer. Now I don't have any windows open right now, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder altogether. So this would be emulating if you were to start on a new exercise. So I'm going to say open folder, and and I will click new folder. Now normally you would just be typing in like EX45 or something like that. I'm just going to say working with VS Code. And then I'll click open, and we have the open working with VS Code rather. I'm going to go ahead and create separate folders for HTML, then for CSS, and you see how that's now a subfolder. I don't mean that, so I'm going to just pull that right out to the same level. And then I'm going to create yet a third one for JavaScript. Okay, great. Now let's go into HTML and create a new file. Now I can either click on the new file button, or I can right click and click new file. Doesn't matter, it works the same. And I will just call this index.html. Now, there's a lot of boilerplate code that you probably noticed when you were working in your REPL. Well, VS Code makes it quite simple. All I have to do here is type doc and hit the tab key, and it puts a lot of that boilerplate code in it for me. So I can go ahead and put something in here because I want to show you how this works. So I'm going to put a div, and that's not too bad, right? Just type, you see how it added it in automatically for me. But I can also just type div and hit tab, and it will do the same thing. I can say div dot featured, hit tab, and it puts it in as a class name. So what do you think if I were to say div hashtag main? Yeah, it puts it in as an ID. So we'll just, for now, type hello world. Okay, now there's no run here, but what I'm going to do is I've already installed something called Live Server, and there are instructions for that in the exercise. And so I'm going to right click on my index.html and say open with Live Server. And that places here in a browser the hello world. Now the nice thing about Live Server is, you remember when you were working in your REPLs, when you made a change to something, you would have to click the run button. But with the Live Server, we don't have to do that. I just type in hello there world, and we go back, and without refreshing the page, it's picked up any changes that were made. And it will pick up changes that are made to JavaScript as well, or CSS for that matter. So that's really about all there is to working with these things. Now, one other thing is, let's say that we create a CSS file. And so we'll call this index.css. By the way, these names index aren't magical names or reserved or anything like that. You can really call it whatever you want. I just got into this habit, and it seems like a lot of programmers use that. So in here we can write CSS rule. I could say something like div hashtag main and make the color red. But nothing changed yet, right? We look over here, not red, because we have to connect the CSS that we wrote with the index. And we do that by coming up here. I'm going to put it right before the title. And I'm going to say, I'm going to type in link and hit tab. And isn't that nice? It knows how to put this. Now, remember we talked about relative versus absolute URLs? So I'm on the same server. So this is going to be a relative URL. And // means pick the same folder that I'm in. And so once I do that, it sees that the only ones available to me is index.html. Well, that's not right. So it must not be in the same folder. Of course, we know it's not. So I'm going to go // which now raises me up a folder. So now I can see all three folders that I wrote, that I created rather. So I'm going to go into CSS, and then from there I can pick index CSS. right? And now that I do that, again, instantly, it turns red. So this is one of the nice things. The other thing that you should be aware of is how to connect your JavaScript file. So let's go ahead and create a JavaScript file. And again, I will call it index.js. And let's just say something like alert, welcome to VS Code. Again, it doesn't do anything because we haven't hooked it up, so let's go ahead and hook it up. And to do that, we say script source equals, and we do that same thing, .. I want to go down to JavaScript and index.js. And now because this will only operate when the file initially loads, I will need to reload this. I'm going to hit return. This is welcome to VS Code. Okay. Because we wouldn't want this to happen every time we, make any change to the code. So this is just a real quick overview, but a live server is one of those things that you'll need to install yourself. There's instructions. It's extremely easy to install extensions to VS Code, and I think you're going to really love this IDE. I sure do.